So I wanted to open this video up with a tweet from HuggyBear43. Let's be honest, we kinda know whom it is they cheer for and where their heart is at this point in time. But they shared a message on Twitter that I thought was appropriate to lead off with this video, because in this video commentary, I want to talk about Quinn Hughes, current Minnesota Wild D-man, former Vancouver Canucks captain, and just some of the narratives surrounding his departure from Vancouver. This tweet from last night went out there and said this: "Don't send hate towards Quinn Hughes now that he's gone. Blame the ownership and management's incompetence. Their inability to surround Hughes with a winning team. Quinn was nothing but great to the city and its fans." And I do think that this is a pretty common sentiment that you will see amongst Canucks fans, media alike, especially heading into the next few years. That Quinn Hughes is and was a generational defenseman for this Vancouver Canucks team. He is the best defenseman that has ever suited up for the Vancouver Canucks. He's a player that commanded success at the hands of the team that employs him. But unfortunately, the only success that Quinn Hughes saw was two decently long playoff runs in 2020 and 2024. In fact, Quinn Hughes is still a top-of-the-world level player. And this was talked about by Minnesota Miracle Man. They went out there and said, hey, I legitimately think that Hughes is the best player we have ever seen traded in their prime since Patrick Waugh. He's better than Rantanen, Tkachuk, Eichel, and Thornton. Prime Erik Karlsson to San Jose is probably the only other player of this caliber to be moved. And now Quinn plays in Minnesota. There is a debate for Subban, Weber, Joe Thornton, only player to win MVP the year that he was traded. But ultimately, the reason I bring this up, and the reason I started this video out with Huggy Bear's tweet, is because of where they were replying. Don't send hate towards Quinn now that he's gone. What was this tweet in reference to? Well, it's from a tweet from Kai Talks Canucks. He says this: "I don't think Quinn Hughes was staying, even if they were good. He wants to be in America. He never showed Vancouver much love. He wasn't a community-minded player or a captain. The opposite of the Sedins." And it's interesting because this tweet got 95 likes, 5,000 views, and a bunch of people going out there and agreeing with it. Oh, Quinn Hughes wasn't a good captain, didn't show Vancouver much love, he was the opposite kind of leader than the Sedins were. And there are a bunch of people going out there and saying, yeah, I mean, he was at the Langley Food Bank, he was there supporting the environment and the community. Others are saying, yeah, he never had that Canuck in him, like a Burrows or a Sedins or a Linden, even Horvat if management didn't trade him. Hughes was the captain, but I don't think he should have been one at all. And then you have Huggy Bear's response here. Multiple things can be true. Hashtag thank you foot goes out there and says, "The organization is incompetent, but he was never in love with being here. Look at the difference between Hughes and Mueller, for example, in terms of embracing the city." Now, for Tomas Mueller, you can say, that's a little bit of a different situation. Quinn Hughes was drafted into Vancouver. Mueller decided to come here after having a historied career in Europe. But at the same time, I think you can understand where these comments are coming from when it comes to Quinn Hughes as a leader figure in the Vancouver Canucks environment. Not the locker room, not on the ice, but in the environment that exists of the team and the scope in which these players exist within. And I wanted to showcase this tweet from BC Lions Den that has a similar idea. They say, I think when Hughes decided he didn't want to be in Vancouver long term, he kind of packed it in. He hasn't been the same player this year. He was wearing the C and not really leading. His post-game stuff was painful to watch. Disappointing, really. And then you have this tweet, which is really opinionated. Chester Ming saying, I can have an opinion on what a captain and supposedly the greatest Canuck ever is supposed to act like. It's not whatever the hell Quinn was doing for months. Extremely unprofessional, disrespectful, and immature. Okay, that's pretty harsh. A reply goes out there and says, yeah, no, Quinn was an amazing talent, but not a great captain or leader. Awkward and aloof, and he sulked when things weren't going great. There is a certain attitude that you can say existed amongst Quinn, especially towards the end of his time in Vancouver, where it became increasingly obvious that, yeah, this guy was not going to stay. Yes, it is a travesty that the Vancouver Canucks needed to trade the best defenseman they ever had in the middle of his prime. Yes, it is a failure that they were not able to get him more than just these 30 playoff games that they got. But at the same time, I don't want to make it seem like this was surprising. Grady Sass quoted the Jeff Patterson tweet. This was the CTV video at the Langley food drive from earlier in the week, where Quinn Hughes goes out there and straight up deflects the question on whether or not he is interested in coming back to Vancouver. Grady said, yeah, this interview was telling. Hughes was straight up asked if he had envisioned staying in Vancouver long term. He dodged that question and brought up how he couldn't yet sign. With that, his body language on the ice, media availabilities, and the state of the Canucks, the writing was on the wall. And I think these two things bleed into the conversation of attitude that we have the right to bring up. Body language on the ice. How often have we had said this season that Quinn Hughes was playing selfishly? How often have we have said this year that Quinn Hughes is not the same Quinn Hughes that was Norris caliber 2 years ago, and even last year? Last year he was Norris caliber. He probably should have won if he played the full season. Now it's selfish plays, holding on to the puck a little bit too long, not passing to the guys that are open, not trusting the teammates to his left and right, trying to force shots in the shin pads. It became a problem this year. You could tell from the way he was moving that he was kind of checked out. And you can't say, oh, Lego, you're talking smack about him now that he's gone. No, we were bringing this up back when these games were happening. We are bringing this up in all the post-game videos that we made this year. It's like Quinn Hughes, as good as he is, there was sort of a selfish play style that emerged out of the shadows. And you can say, oh, it's frustration. He was playing selfishly because he can't trust the guys on his wing, because he can't trust Elias Pettersson, because Petey's not shooting anymore, because this team failed to surround Quinn with the necessary pieces to be competitive. That's a fair perspective, but it doesn't change how Quinn Hughes was playing this year. And you talk about the media availabilities, you could tell it was kind of getting to him towards the end there. The post-game interview against Buffalo, his last game ever as a Vancouver Canuck, you could tell there was just sort of a deadness in the way that he was communicating his thoughts. It was more like, yeah, no, this is just another day. You know, playing in the National Hockey League, being a captain of an NHL team, being a captain of a team that's this bad. It's hard to get enthusiastic about that, and Quinn, as talented of a player as he is, I think we can go out there and say that he may not actually have been the best choice as a captain, nor could he be seen as one of the better captains in Canucks history. In terms of just pure talent, yeah, he's right up there. But in terms of captaining the team, I think there are some question marks that you can propose. Here's another tweet from Sapster. I think this is a good way to end off this video over here. I can both be upset that Quinn decided he didn't want to stay, while acknowledging that the team failed him. Fandom isn't meant to be an area where rationality is a requirement. Good luck in Minnesota, Quinn. Hope you miss the playoffs. You know, I'm even going to go take a step further. I think if Quinn makes the playoffs, good for him. Like, he deserves time in the postseason. Who knows if the Wild will find ways to get past the first round nowadays, but they got Quinn Hughes. That guy feeding it to Kirill Kaprizov, man, I better hope you trust him more than you trust Elias Pettersson and actually start passing it on the power play to that guy. But at the end of the day, this video might sound a little bitter. I think it kind of is. At the same time, I do think that these ideas should be acknowledged, that Quinn Hughes as a captain on the Vancouver Canucks may not necessarily have been the best, but hey, who can blame him? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about the captaincy talk on Quinn Hughes and where exactly we are today. I hope you enjoyed this video 99, and bye.